Welcome to Tool Crave, a podcast where I chat with the best and brightest makers to gain insights on how they make and discover which tools they really use and which tools they covet. I'm Timothy Dahl, the founder of Charles & Hudson Media and former editor at Popular Mechanics, Lifehacker, and This Old House. Today my guest is my good friend Shelly Miller Leer. She's a designer, writer, and teacher who specializes in the art of upholstery. She's championed the movement towards restoring, restyling, and repurposing long before it was a trendy thing to do. Shelly just launched a new book on upholstery and is currently teaching out of her HomeRoom shop in Indianapolis. In this episode, Shelly shares some of her secrets to upholstery, her journey as a writer and teacher, and the tools you need to get started upholstering your own furniture. All right. Hello, Shelly. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Timothy. Thank you for having me.
Of course. As we were just discussing offline, we met like many years ago at this Delta event, and I can't recall. If you can, I'd be kind of surprised and shocked to hear how long ago it was.
Oh, it had to be over 5 years ago, don't you think?
Oh, I think probably closer to 9 years ago.
8.
Yeah. I was living in New York. I'm pretty sure I was living in New York then. That was almost 10. That was 10 years ago.
That was a deluxe event, though. That was really fun.
It was, and that was my first time going to Indianapolis. Is it Indianapolis, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is where you're based, correct?
Wait, you came to Indianapolis, but then we turned around. Didn't we go to New York or was that a separate event for the Fashion Week?
I don't know if I was a part of that.
Did you not do that?
Oh, that was the Moen thing.
No, that it was Jason Wu.
Yep, I was not. Fashion was not part of my thing.
Yeah, I don't know why. I have no idea why I got invited to that.
That's awesome. So you went to Fashion Week.
Yes.
That's very cool. And is he still doing? I mean, there was a tie-in with Jason Wu and these
Bruzzo.
Fixtures. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, their Bruzzo line is still, I don't know whether he's still involved with that, but that Bruzzo line's still going strong.
And that's their upscale version.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because I recall, I mean, at that event was the first time I had met, I had a writer at the time and we both came and were we installing a faucet as part of the event? Okay.
We went down there in their basement and they told us how to do all their fancy faucets. It was really great. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, that was a good time. And actually, unfortunately, I think I was just in and out, so I didn't even have a chance to check out Indianapolis, which I feel weird because I just sometimes these big cities, American cities, I feel like I've never been to, but it's kind of it's sad that I haven't, like Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, like these places I feel like I know so much about, but I've never been to.
If it was good weather, you would have enjoyed it. I can't recall what the weather was. I think
it was good, and I think I just jumped on a plane and came back. So I'm trying to switch that up, and if I have time, at least spend a day trying to get some highlights wherever I am. But,
well, you know what? I do remember your writer. I remember introducing myself and talking to your writer at that time. Yes,
Katie.
Yes.
Yeah, we're still in touch, and actually.
Oh yes, I follow her on Instagram. That's right.
Yes. She's still writing. She put a book out about Kansas City, and she's actually going to be spending, I think, a couple months. Actually in California doing some writing. So yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to our blogging days, which I kind of want to jump into because I'm kind of new to we met, you were doing Mod Home Ec, a blog.
Yes, Mod Home Ec was the predecessor to my HomeRoom website. And I was blogging a lot back then.
And that's what got you these opportunities. You were connecting with brands and doing different things like that. And you weren't really focused on the upholstery as much as you are now.
I think that if I remember this correctly, I was writing for a website called Curbly.
Yes.
You know Curbly?
Yep.
And that sort of got my foot in the door. And then I had my own website, but the Curbly stuff is what got me going. But I had been I don't know if you want to hear about this right now, but I had been upholstering for about, 20 years maybe as my kids were growing up. I just started my own little business and I trained and I did that. And then I started taking that online when those blogs started happening, when all of a sudden people were writing and showing what they could do. And I started kind of trying to encourage people to at least pick up something and try to upholster it.
Right.
And yeah, so I don't know how it all evolved. It just did kind of. It was like a snowball effect.
And what year was that about when you started, on the
Oh, that
site?
had to be, I think I started at like 2006
Okay.
maybe. I started putting stuff out there and it was going up on Design Sponge and the Craft website. And then Curbly, the guy at Curbly, Bruno, you've probably met him. I don't know. He contacted me and said, "Hey, we're looking for writers." So that was it. That was how I got going on all of this, and it really has been an unexpected evolution.
Right. I mean, and back then there weren't that many kind of outlets
That's
to do
right.
writing. So, but you were with Design Sponge, Curbly. I mean, those are the two big ones out there.
Well, I didn't get paid to write for Design Sponge. She just would, what you said is true. There was not that much content available. So if you sent something, everybody was grabbing it up, and it would be like two people were going to post it and you had to choose one.
Right, right. And it was just about the exposure that you got.
Yeah,
And
it
I mean,
was
you
just,
probably, if you got a Design Sponge back in the day, it might have crashed your website.
that's right.
Now, okay, so let's just jump in forward to kind of
Okay.
what you're doing now. And,
Okay.
I know that upholstery's been, as you said, like kind of a lifelong, thing for you. But now you're doing, I mean, I think we touched base a little bit. You're doing classes. Just tell me a little bit about
All
HomeRoom and
right.
how that works out.
Well, it's funny because I don't know. There are so many facets to upholstery, and I don't want to belabor the point, but there are the old timey upholsterers, there are the new DIY upholsterers, then there are all those in the middle, and it's kind of a little dog eat dog world in there because the tried and true traditional upholsterers kind of they think a DIY upholstery is something to kind of scoff at, but that's the way a lot of people get into upholstery. And there are a shortage of upholsterers out there in the world. And I mean, especially in the United States, but I'm not sure that there's the need that there used to be because people are not, unfortunately, people are not hanging on to those good old pieces like they used to. So um, I started teaching classes probably about, well, it had to be over 10 years ago because I'm in my brick and mortar shop that I've been in for over 10 years. And I started in the basement of my house. And that soon got too crowded. I had three students, and we were kind of falling all over each other. So I went out and rented space. And I've been down there for 10 years, and I started this one little product called Upholstery Boot Camp. And it's really for DIYers, it's for beginners. And they bring in a simple open arm side chair. And we just start on Friday mornings and tear it down and work the days Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And ideally, they walk out Sunday with a finished chair and all the teaching that can go into it in 3 days, which you can't go too in depth, but you can give them a taste of it,
I mean, that's,
and then
yeah.
people can tell whether they like it or they don't like it, and mostly they like it, but sometimes they're like, this just isn't for me, which is fine.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, so somebody can come in with no experience, have a chair that they want to, you said, reupholster, and at the end of 3 days, they essentially
Yes,
have a new chair that they've done themselves.
that's right, but it's not just any lounge chair. It's a seat, and then it's an inside back and outside back. It's not like a fully upholstered armchair because there is a time limit, and I have had people bring in the wrong kind of chairs, but I tell them ahead of time what kind of chairs to bring in. So I just had a boot camp last weekend, and there's so much more to it than just the actual work. They're trying something new, they're learning something out of their zone, and it's I don't know, it's really gratifying. And I realized early on watching the classes that there was something that was happening. These people were just really enjoying the process. So I kept it up, and I'm still trying to expand it. And it's been very successful, so I started making online courses after that.
That's something that actually we're looking at online courses for Built by Kids, which I know we've discussed as
Oh yeah.
well. And there's an opportunity there, and I feel like you're being able to scale kind of what you've created down in your basement with the number of people that you have, and you can't really, you're kind of holding, it seems like with something like this, you're really kind of holding everybody's hand and kind of getting them going. Whereas with a online course, kind of amazing how much, you could really, get out there for people.
It's a well, you know what amazing are how many people say they couldn't do it online, but yet how many people really can do it, and people are getting better at creating from online courses.
Now, have you already launched those
Oh
courses?
yeah, I did these. I started these in 2014.
Oh, okay. So you're a veteran at these
I
then.
have 4 courses online, and I had to scale it, and sold them. I can't tell you how many times I've sold them over and over and over. And I have a new course I'm working on now, which is mid-century modern, which people don't really know how to upholster mid-century modern beginning pieces. So that should be interesting, and I have a lot of interest from my email list for that.
No, I mean, we actually have some mid-century modern, like Scandinavian dining
Yeah,
chairs that very simple, but it's really just the seat,
yeah.
and they're stained, very they look terrible, but we definitely need a course like that.
Well, that's I would sit here and ask you all sorts of questions as a potential student. I would say, so would you like classes that just do one or two types of chairs, or would you like a chair, a bench, an ottoman? It's hard to know. People say they like it all, so it's hard to choose what to do in an online class. You don't want to do too much.
Right, and some people, like, I think for us, those are really the only chairs that we have that have upholstery on them. The rest of them are kind of more the either plastic or solid wood. So and because I feel like right now that might change after we take your course, it's not something that we're going to be looking for, to constantly be doing. But it definitely needs to be done, or else we're just gonna have to send it out, I guess.
Yeah, you don't want to send it out. You can do that.
I know. I'd love to do it. I'd love to learn it
Yeah.
ourselves and pick out the fabrics and go through that whole process.
I know. I'm sitting here thinking already what kind of fabric you're going to need for that. I'm scanning that.
Thank you. We'll have to bring it out to Indianapolis and have you take a look.
I think we could do like a Facebook Live or something where I could just show you in my shop
Oh,
how to
that'd be
do it. You
very
could watch
cool.
it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I will mark that down because it's definitely, again, we have 4 chairs. It's not a big set, and it's kind of the focal point. And every time we look at them now, we just kind of cringe, and they keep getting worse. I feel like we might want to wait till our youngest boy is a
Yeah.
little older because we might be, digging
They
in
get
the
a little
sand there.
grimy. Yeah.
Right. His hands are now just yeah, they're not. As soon as we do it, I think they're just going to get worse. So a couple more years maybe, and
Yeah, you got to wait till those kids get tamed. They get tamed and they don't.
right.
Yeah. So I have a question. So when you talk about the possibility of doing an online class for kids and tools, I've thought about. Well, we've talked about that. How would you? How, would it be marketed to just like anybody out there, or would it be to groups? Because I've thought about Girls Inc. and different. I don't know if you have Girls Inc. where you are, but it's a organization for underserved girls, but it could be kids, boys and girls. How would you market a tool use to kids?
Great question. We are in process of actually building this course, figuring out our kind of ideal, customer, and right now we haven't even expanded on those different opportunities. We are in process, as you know, of as you know how it works with building our list and trying to
Yeah.
connect with people who really would be our ideal customer, and we kind of have that worked out based on different interviews, who our audience is right now on social, who visits the website, and it looks like I feel like there's a big opportunity for these different groups. I think the course itself will be a little bit more general and have an age range of maybe 8 to 12 years old, coming in with very varying levels of experience, but mostly like they've really never touched a tool.
Right.
So I think that we want to grow on that with build on that with projects, literally build on that with projects. More advanced kind of tool stuff with working with power tools, things of that nature. But doing a course that's specifically geared towards girls or towards different communities, is something that we've discussed. But right now, it's just going to have to build on
I
that
know.
for
You just
later.
have to, I think you just have to just start, and that's what I'm working on, just getting it started. And I'm not working on the online part now. I just want to start the classes.
Right.
Um, yeah, and I think that it's time for it for kids and tools because when my kids were little, and you've taught your kids how to use tools from the beginning. But when I was growing up, that was no kids were using tools. Maybe the boys got to try a tool every now and then. But when my kids were little, they went to a preschool that was a co-op nursery school, which I'm not even sure if that's a big thing anymore, but they just let kids start drilling and hammering, with the parent supervision and teacher supervision. And my jaw just dropped open. Like, how great is this?
Right. I think that's even less now in a way. You have to really seek out maker spaces, discovery
Yes.
centers, tinkering schools, and it's really not. I mean, there are preschools now. I mean, our son went to maybe a similar school where they're not picking up maybe real tools, but they're doing a lot of outdoor classrooms, a lot of tactile exposure to different things. So, and his school has a maker space that he goes to now, but it's not. More often than not, and what we're looking at are gearing our course towards are children who really don't have any exposure to that. And the main thing
Uh-huh.
is not necessarily, learning the ins and outs of the actual tool, but more building that confidence to become more self-sufficient. So if they have a challenge,
Totally. That's it.
right,
Yes.
right. So they have to have a challenge. They're like, okay, I can use a tool to do this, but just think of like these different ways to approach it than handing it off to somebody else, or spending money or throwing it away, getting something new. So there's a lot, as of that just builds the confidence and just like, hey, I can take this on, and hey, if this tool course kind of helped me along that way, that's great.
No, I love it that the tools are a metaphor for tools, these are tools for a lot of things in their lives, and it's empowerment. When you realize you can do it, it kind of bleeds into all parts of your life.
Yeah, have your kids taken on any upholstery? Are they at all
Oh
doing
no,
anything like that?
but you know what? They did. I did used to, I'm not going to say make them, but I did make them tear down furniture for me when they were growing up. They were probably from early junior high on. And I would pay them a little bit. And sometimes they just spread out a canvas in the living room in front of the TV. And I showed them how to carefully, take out tacks or whatever. I didn't give them things that were really hard. But other than that, they've not been interested in doing it themselves, but they are all interested in furniture, I think, from having that exposure.
Right, right. I mean, it's interesting, like you said, when you kind of bring that in to them early on, then it's kind of nothing. It's nothing out of the ordinary, and they just kind of are fine, either way, and that they can kind of take it to the next level if they need to.
Well, and I've noticed lately when we're out and about, so, they have their own places they're living, and their aesthetic and things are much more for the kind of things that I was doing. Finding vintage pieces that are worth hanging on, something unusual. So those I don't know. I guess my values have seeped into them, and I'm just really happy to see that they aren't running out and buying just generic kind of throwaway pieces.
Yeah, that's a great point too when you talk about upholstery and kind of you look at fast fashion. Are you seeing that in like fast furniture? Like, I mean, I bring up IKEA, but things that we invest in, they look nice, but they're not really going to last and make it through a move. Or after a few years, you'll just throw it away. You'll get something new. Obviously, there's a resurgence. I feel like in vintage, in secondhand shopping for furniture, like quality stuff. But is that a wave that you're kind of riding now? Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I had a hard time hearing some of that you were
Oh,
saying there,
sorry.
but so what was the end? Now it's clear,
Um,
but so what was the end
it was
question? I
more,
heard,
yeah, more of like like hey, IKEA's kind of everywhere, ubiquitous,
yeah.
throwaway furniture, but there's still a lot of people who want to invest, as in with fashion, invest in a really great piece that will last for years, that they can take care of, and is somewhat timeless.
Well, and I think I agree with you, and I think that like my responsibility in whatever platform I have is to educate people about this and why it's better to put the money into a reupholstery job rather than a new piece. So what they end up saying is, I for how much money that's going to cost for all the foam and the padding and fabric, I could buy a new piece. Well, yeah, that's true. You could probably buy a piece for cheaper sometimes, but it's not going to be as good of quality as the older piece. And it's not going to last as long. If an older piece has lasted that long, it's probably going to last a lot longer. So, but again, sometimes people just don't care because whether they're moving or they're transient, they're just, I'm going to throw it out. I just don't need to have this heavy old pieces of my mother's or grandmother's furniture. So we were going to talk a little bit about, I don't know if you want to, about upholstery tools because they're
Yes.
just so, well, since you're doing Tool Crave, upholstery tools are the best. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I've stuck with it all these years. And I don't know if you know what are typical tools or if you have any listeners who might want to take on one of their little pieces and tear it down. I could tell them how to not have to invest in specific tools, but just use some things they have at home.
Right. That's great. Let's break down kind of the, I don't know, top tools that somebody would need. And if they already have it in their home, even better.
Okay. So I would say that a good electric stapler and an upholstery specific staple gun is the best. But if you don't have that, I would get an electric stapler, whatever kind you can get. And if you have one that hooks up to your air compressor, even better. But all you need is a little flathead screwdriver, probably with a long handle, but a narrow head on it, and a pair of crescent pliers, and a pair of scissors, and a hammer.
That's it.
Yep. Well, that's not it as you get going, into it deeper and deeper. But to get started, that's how I got started. And then I started adding tools to my collection. But you can get by with those for a long time as long as you've got a good stapler there. And the main company that makes upholstery tools also make leather tools, and it's called Osborne.
Okay.
I think do you know Osborne?
I've heard of them, yes.
Yeah, so there's a leather shop here in town that has scrap leather. It's really caters to shoe repair shops. And all of a sudden, I noticed they had a whole collection of Osborne tools down there. I had no idea Osborne also made leather tools. But these are the best tools to hold in your hand because, these people who do this for a living have those tools in their hands all day long, and they feel so good. And I would say that my Osborne tools I got 25 years ago, I'm still using. They're indestructible and they're so well made. So a lot of people run out and try to buy some cheapy things, and it might work for a little bit, but overall it's better to invest in the better tools.
Right. And do you buy them online, or is there a certain retailer that you go to?
Yeah. Yes, because there's no place here in town that sells them. I think Joanne Fabric tries to sell some upholstery tools, but I don't think they're very good. I don't know if you want me to mention some resources. There's a website called DIY Upholstery, and they sell online, and they ship it really quickly. And I have not done a price comparison. I happen to have a wholesaler that sells to me, and he's in Cincinnati. And their prices aren't that great, but I've been using them for so many years. But the DIYers can use this DIY upholstery and get really good quality materials that you can't get locally. It's not going to be Joanne foam; it's going to be upholsterer's foam.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, another just a random thing here. We also have some outdoor furniture that we have to have reupholstered, and we're having a hard time finding good foam, good fabric. And yeah, I think maybe we'll check out DIY upholstery.
Well, so now you've got me curious. I'm sorry, but are these cushions, can you lift them up off of there? Are they loose cushions?
These are loose cushions, yes. Is that something that works, or no? We're talking about something different.
I just wondered if you're going to redo them or buy new.
We could, so we've thought about putting a cover on them because they're just starting to wear away, but also the foam it's kind of a poor quality foam. So when you sit on it, you just kind of almost go right to the bottom.
Oh yeah, well your foam's gone then.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, see that's another conversation. I need to take a look and see what you've got there, and I can give you all sorts of advice. But yeah, so the upholstery tools, and like I said, I think it's what has kept me so interested. There's always a new tool for some other little, challenge that you come up with a different piece of furniture because I have some I call them low slung modern I call them my low slung mid century lounge chairs that have loose cushions. And then let's say you have a traditional chair, but the webbing and all this stuff is completely different on those two. So you get to get new tools for different pieces of furniture. It's like getting new school supplies. So when I used to do a piece and I'd open it up, I'm like, ooh, I need to get some of that elastic webbing that's from the 60s. That's what from that era. So then you get to go hunt for supplies, which, I don't know if you're like I am, but I love new tools and I love supplies. So
Right. No, that sounds like a lot of fun, a lot of good excuse to invest in more fun stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Um, what do you, I know, and I know I wrote about some of these tools and also your book, the little upholstery book.
Oh
How
yeah.
did
So my
that? I mean, has that been out for a while now? Tell me about that and how that happened.
Okay, my book came out in May and Schiffer Publishing published it. They're outside of Philadelphia. And I will tell you this quick story because it all came about at the Furniture Design Society Woodworkers show up in Port Townsend. There's a guy here in town who is the head of the Heron School of Art and Design furniture program, and he brought his undergrad and graduate classes into my shop just to show them what upholstery was. They're making furniture, but they don't really often know how to do any upholstery. So we did a little workshop and then we were talking, and he said, would you like to come out here and talk to this group? So I flew out to Port Townsend, Washington, which, if you don't know, happens to be the location they filmed. It's an army base, and they filmed An Officer and a Gentleman there.
Okay.
And so Port Townsend, their claim to fame is all of these woodworkers are there that repair big boats. And so they have this giant boat yard and all these really, really talented craftsmen. And so that seemed like a logical place for this Furniture Design Society to hold their talk. Anyway, okay, so that's the basis. Then I met one of the senior editors at Schiffer. He was there, and I probably had maybe too much caffeine or something. And I went up at lunch and just sat down. I said, I've got an idea for a couple different books. I just wondered if you'd be interested in listening. And he was very polite and yes. And I told him, and he said, well, here's my card. Get a hold of me, which I did. And then I wrote up a little proposal for it. And one day, it was in the fall, about this time of year, I had gone kayaking. I got back in the car. I got a phone call from Pete Schiffer, the owner of Schiffer Publishing. And he said, yes, we want to publish your book. And I
That's
was floored. I was floored.
that's amazing. I mean, you went right to the person, you made your pitch, and they said yes, and that's it.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And
I don't, yeah.
how long? So how long? When was this conference? How long? How long until like kind of that started
Oh,
until it
well,
happened?
I don't know if you want to know that because
Okay.
so they're really generous and they give you a year to write your book and they understand that life happens and things happen. Well, I had a lot of things that happened in during that year. I had lost three siblings,
Oh
and
wow.
it wasn't all within one year, but it was in successive years. Actually, there was like a year in between. And so I would get partway done and then I'd lose another one and then I'd be, all adrift
Oh
for a
my
while.
gosh.
And so after my sister passed away in 2014, I'm 2015, it was like, all right, I've got to get this book finished. And so I just buckled down and did it because I knew I thought I'm going to lose this opportunity if I don't get it done. And they were so kind. But anyway, so then I finally wrapped it up. And so it came out in May of 2019, and I had it finished in December of 2018.
Wow, that's quickly. It went to print and
Well, maybe it wasn't. Wait a minute. Maybe it was. no, maybe it was the spring of 2018. I wanted to have it released in the winter and they bumped it to the spring. So yeah, I had it ready to go earlier, but they bumped it back to the next release date. So yeah, so that was just kind of it's a great accomplishment, and they tell you right up front, this is not going to make you $1 million, but it's a good calling card.
No, for sure. I mean, you definitely can. Having something in print is still, I feel like, the pinnacle in a lot of what we're doing, and you can always refer to it, and it's just, no, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Can I tell you? I saw your picture on the Tool Crave website, and I have to tell you one of my favorite projects in my book. Well, I only had 6 projects in there, but one of the best ones was I bought at Goodwill for $14 an ugly old, I don't know if you would know this, a scroll arm bench. So the both sides kind of go around in a big curve, kind of
Yes.
frumpy. I would say it's a frumpy bench.
Okay.
And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I stripped down all the padding and fabric and I took the Sawzall to it.
Oh,
And
fun.
I had never even used a Sawzall, and I thought, "What the heck? I'm just gonna cut these scrolls off of here." And so I did it, and it was kind of like the beauty of this was, and this is what I love about building, it's like I didn't really know upfront how it was gonna turn out, but it was just step by step, I figured it out, and then I thought, "Oh, I have a frame now. Now I have the frame I can upholster to."
Right.
And it just, it was nothing I knew ahead of time, which is sometimes frustrating. You want to know the instructions. It's like, I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to make it work.
Just kind of
So,
have to freestyle and let it
yeah,
go, and
totally. Yes.
and you
Yeah.
got your sawzall in your hand and just let it rip.
Oh man, that Sawzall was great. I have to think of something else I can use that on.
They're kind of amazing. I use mine a lot. I mean, for landscaping stuff, for just like all the time. Even for like auto stuff. There's just a lot of uses for
Wait, what
a
did you
recip
cut?
saw.
Like you cut bushes down with it?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we
Ah,
remove trees. Sometimes, sometimes a chainsaw is a little bit of overkill, but you can get it down. Get that blade kind of down, and you can get it down into the dirt. It's not really an issue.
yeah.
And yeah, we actually use it a lot for getting rid of old stuff, helping clear stuff. It just yeah, it does a really nice quick job, and it
I
just
never thought about that.
yeah. First time I saw it was it was at a like one of these Habitat for Humanity builds, and this guy had one, and we were cutting out. We used it to cut out some rose bushes, and it was just like, oh, that was easy way to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because the
that worked out great.
chainsaws stop when they hit the dirt, don't
Right,
they?
and you don't want to. You can mess up your saw, and it's just and there's just more involved with a chainsaw. So the recip though, they're very
Yeah.
capable. Yeah, yeah. Um,
I won't use a chainsaw ever again. I tried that. I'm lucky I didn't cut my leg off, and that I will never use that again.
it's and now with all the battery powered chainsaws, there's even more opportunity
Oh,
for people to kind of jump right into them. And I feel like as long as you're kind of in a really your environment, you're wearing the proper safety gear, and you have a real specific like direction that you're cutting, then they're fine to use. But yeah, they're not forgiving at all. So
well, what I was trying to do is I had tree stumps, and I wanted to cut the tops
oh
straight because I
yeah,
thought, and I had too long of a chainsaw. It was too heavy for me,
okay.
and I just gave up. And I thought I'm either not going to do this or I'm going to have to get somebody to do it. It was too
Right,
dangerous.
right. And you're
Yeah.
cutting a stump like flat across, which is
Right.
kind of a tough cut too because of the weight of the stump on the chain, and it can kind of get hung up even more. And it just, yeah, no, that's where a stump grinder comes in. So yeah,
Yes.
but we've all done.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing though, and I've used it for that, and it's just a little more sketchy.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
So what's your favorite tool?
Oh, I gotta put the recip saw up there
Yeah.
because for the reasons I just mentioned. I feel like a jigsaw is,
Oh,
can
yeah.
has a lot of uses. It's really kind of one of the first great tools that kids can get into. Um, what what else? I really enjoy using an impact driver.
Oh, yeah.
I don't pick up my anytime I can use an impact as opposed to a drill driver, I'll just grab the impact. So
Uh-huh.
that's probably an impact right now is what I use the most just for driving screws, for anything. So yeah, probably an impact is probably my most favorite one. And then some of these subcompact ones I really like because they're they're small, but they're powerful, and they just can, they're just little workhorses.
I have two little DeWalt impact drills, and I love them. And I can rotate them around. I need two in my shop, but um, people come in there and they see how small it is, and they're just amazed. Especially women. They're not familiar with tools that. Not all. I'm not saying all women aren't familiar with tools, but
Right.
most of the ones that come to my shop are not.
Yeah, and they don't. I think that there's some inherent, maybe bias with some of these power tools, and you think you have to kind of be like a big burly guy to pick these things up and use them, but no, not at all.
Well, I know as I've been talking about them teaching girls or teaching these classes to kids, the women that I'm telling this about say, wait, what about teaching it to us? And so I'm hearing that the women are wanting to do that too. And so I don't know. I think it's easy to get people to sign up for kids classes. I'm not sure to get adults to commit to a tool class is going to be as easy.
Right. I think if there's maybe an end goal in a sense for an
Yes.
adult to kind of have something
Yes.
to go through. But no, there's just so much out there for us to kind of jump on right now.
I know the time is right.
It's exciting. Yeah, I agree.
I know.
So where can people, connect with you?
Okay,
and
well,
follow you?
so I still have my old Mod Home Ec website, which nobody should go look at unless they want to dig through the archives. But I have the homeroomshop.com, and I had to add the and shop to it because down in Australia there's some clothing website called homeroom.com. So it's the homeroomshop.com, and then on Instagram I've got upholstery_club, and also wait a minute, I've got to tell you what that homeroom. It's home_room_shop.
Okay.
Homeroom shop,
And that's on
that's where I
Instagram
am.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how I divided it up, I maybe have too much going on, but on Homeroom Shop, it's mostly my local classes, and the Upholstery Club things are more kind of just out there, kind of highlighting upholstery around the world.
Okay. And
Yeah.
anything else, coming up through the end of the year or next year that you want to share
Well,
that people can connect with?
one thing and this is nothing for like a global audience, but I do these sort of little artisan craft classes with leather and wood burning, and small little classes like that where I've been able to take them out to corporate settings like Salesforce downtown here.
Oh, cool.
And so I get these techie people who are a little burnt out on their jobs, and they get to sit and make something during work hours, and they're just tickled to death. So I'm loving that, but I'm also doing that in my shop. But as far as online, this mid-century modern beginning class is coming up, and then I'm just going to start building this library of online courses because it's just time to do it.
That's awesome. Do you do your courses? Are they closed or open courses?
And
In terms of timing, is it something that once you launch it, it's just out there, anybody can sign up for it?
Well, that's a good question. No, so how I started out when I first started learning about how to do this, they're launches. I always launch them, and I work with the students throughout the course. So if it's a 4-week course or 6-week, and we do a Facebook group where they can ask questions, kind of live stuff. But then after that, that I might wait 6 months and offer that class again, and I'll be a part of it. But then maybe after a year and a half, I'll offer it as an evergreen class.
Okay, cool.
And they can come in. Like all 4 classes that I have up now are just anybody can buy any number of them. Every now and then I'll bundle them so that they get a nice little sale price for all 4.
Okay. And where can somebody access that via the homeroom shop?
Yeah, they can go to if they go to the homeroomshop.com, there's a drop down under classes, and one of them says online, and that's where can be found.
Okay, awesome.
And I will tell everybody that website needs some freshening up, so I'm going to go do that right this minute.
Sounds great, Shelly. Thank you so much for being on the
Thanks,
podcast here, and
Timothy.
it's great catching up.
Yeah, I want you to I want to keep in touch about these kids classes. I think this is really exciting.
Oh, for sure. You'll be the first to know.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Talk
Shelly.
to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Tool Crave. If you like the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Follow along with us for guest updates on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Tool Crave. And feel free to email us at podcast@toolcrave.com for guest suggestions or just to say hi. Thanks again and see you soon.